Greetings, everyone. Yes, indeed. It is October the 17th, isn't it? I think that's right. Time flies when you're having fun. Welcome, everybody. I hope that everybody has done well this past week. October is still one of my favorite holidays. And we are still wearing pink on Friday. So, it really is a special month. I got just a few things to talk with you about, but let's start with things about the coronavirus. Oh yeah, the coronavirus. So when are we going to be able to stop talking about the coronavirus? I'm not sure. You know, I know you're probably tired of hearing me say this. The surge is coming, the surge is coming. And it's kind of like, okay, what's she talking about? Well, you know, John Douglas puts out a what we call a COVID-19 digest. He gives it to our task force pretty regularly, but he gives it to y'all at least weekly. And this is really important. I know everybody's not data geeks, but this data is very important. It's data that impacts you, your health, your family's health, your friends' health. So be informed. Be informed with accurate, evidence-based data. You know, we get our data from several different sources, but all of it has been vetted very extensively. And now at this point, even more so. COVID Act Now is data that comes from a lot of different collaborative partners, such as Harvard, Stanford. It is a compilation of data. It is also the data by which Denise Ellis uses to determine quarantine necessities. The infection rate specifically comes from COVID Act Now. And speaking of the surge, just as we experienced around the 1st of July, around the 4th of July holiday, what's happening now is indeed a surge. We're seeing our coastal counties once again experience some of the higher infection rates. As a matter of fact, they're running in the neighborhood of 1.34, 1.38, so forth. We saw this last time happen, where Horry counties and Charleston were some of the first to start hitting the high infection rates, and then more of the metropolitan or larger systems began to experience it, which in our case would be Florence and even Charlotte. And then slowly it does come into our rural counties. Right now, our rural counties, all of them, are not experiencing much more than 1.01 or so infection rate. So it's much, much lower. But we pay pretty close attention to that. Stay informed with the data. Don't spread misinformation. Don't use incorrect data. And remember, the data is a very fluid piece of information. It changes pretty regularly. And yes, you hear my dogs in the background. It sounds like somebody is coming to the door, which I'll just ignore. You know what else the data tells us? The data tells us not only what's going on in our environment, but it also tells us what's going on across the world. And when I talk about surge, I'm talking about it not just in our areas and our locations, but there is an international surge that is actually happening now. If you look at the information that comes out of sources like COVID Act Now and IHME, the international community is really struggling. They have experienced a pretty high increase in the infection rate. They are experiencing cold weather right now. The European countries are actually on a different latitude than we are in the United States. We're generally at the same latitude as the northern parts of Africa. So we're in a much warmer latitude. But you know what cold weather is going to mean? It's going to mean that we're not going to get out as much. We're not going to be in the fresh air, open environments. As a matter of fact, we're going to be in more contained areas. And remember that the infection rate is contributed not only just by the spread of aerosols, which is why you wear a mask, and the distance that those aerosols spread, which is why you want to have 6 foot at least of social distancing, although CDC has actually said that 6 foot may not be enough. It may take 12 foot or more. It's very hard to figure this out. But then the third factor, and the factor that a lot of people really fail to take into account, is the period of time that you spend in close environments. So the issue is not only wearing your mask and staying as far apart, socially distanced as you possibly can, but the issue is also spend as little time as you can in a close environment with more people. And that, friends, is why we are still adamant about not having group meetings, education sessions, and allowing that to transpire. I know you're tired of it. I know that especially as we look at the implementation of our electronic health record, it sure would be a lot easier if we could have some of the trainings and so forth in a group environment, be a lot more effective, a lot easier, but we just can't let that happen. We've been very fortunate at CareSouth. I've been hearing horror stories about staff transmissions in many, many other settings, not just FQHCs, but hospitals and so forth. And we're going to continue to be careful and to be very, very cautious. So I'm sorry, but for the foreseeable future, things are going to be as they currently are. No group settings or meetings. And speaking of the coronavirus, there is a new training that Denise found, and she put on Relias and brought your attention to it. And it is a very, very good training. Please take the time to review that. It has excellent information applicable to infectious disease like coronavirus, the spread, how it works. I feel like I've learned all things coronavirus since the middle of March, but there were some things that were really kind of eye-opening as I reviewed it. So I want to draw your attention to that. Please take the time to take a look at that and to engage in that training. And feel free, share that training. Share it. Let your friends, let your families look at it with you. As distantly and with mask on as you need. All right. Another topic, flu vaccines. Many of us have already had our flu vaccine, but it's happening practically as we speak. Our wellness nurses are going around and they're administering the flu vaccine. We did not change our policy. It is mandatory. You did get an email out earlier this week, and Randy announced, he and I had talked about it, that we were going to hold another drawing around the flu vaccine. And you might have been looking at that and said, well, why are they doing an incentive? It's mandatory. I'll tell you, I tended to think about that more in the realm of an appreciation rather than an incentive. Yeah, it is mandatory, but who can't benefit from a little bit of cash in your pocket around the holidays? But it's also a message that we really appreciate you. We appreciate everything that everybody is going through and the demands that are on you, the needs that you're having to address, not just with us while you're at work, but also at home and in your communities. So, yeah, it's an incentive appreciation. All right. Last, when I spoke about the in-person meetings, we usually, by this point, have had a staff meeting in April and one in August, and we would be planning one for December. And the December one for 2020 was going to be a big hoop-to-do. We were really going to pull out all the stops because this is the CareSouth Carolina 40th year anniversary. And, it's an anniversary still in spite of coronavirus. And we had already planned for some giveaways and some appreciations and some acknowledgments and so forth. And we're not going to change that. One of the really great goodies that we had planned were rain jackets. They have come in. I appreciate all of y'all that responded, and we got your correct sizes and everything. And we're going to start distributing them next week. We just kind of decided, why hold off? People can use these things. The colder weather is coming, and you're really, really going to love these rain jackets. As you wear them, appreciate that CareSouth has been 40 years in the community, making a difference to the patients, the communities that we serve because of you, because of your commitment, your compassion, your acknowledgement that our mission to improve and enhance the well-being for everyone is a purpose for which you're proud to be part of. So wear them with pride. Last is you all have gotten the email, I hope, where I announced with great excitement that in part of the voter drive this year, registration and of course getting out the vote, we had tossed around within the executive management team different ways to really encourage this. You know, we are past the registration deadline, but there's a lot of opportunity: absentee voting, voting early in person, and then of course election day on November the 3rd. We started discussing this, and a lot of the executive management team that have direct line staff were saying, well, we hear often that staff just say they just can't get out the vote. They don't have time. They get off work and they have to rush home. They got stuff going on at home and with their kids and with their families and so forth. So we tossed around a lot of options. We said, well, maybe we can allow a 2-hour voting window, and folks can ask their supervisors for a 2-hour break or something like that. And the more we discussed this, the more we realized, oh, that would be kind of difficult. If somebody took 2 hours here and somebody here, we might have a scheduling nightmare. And we finally decided, if we're really committed to this, let's just close the office down. Let's close the offices, all of the offices at 3 o'clock, and let everyone vote. We can't be the vote police. You know, we're not going to follow you around and saying, are you really going to vote? We trust you. Because like the care message, text message that came out yesterday, vote as if your health depends on it, because it does. You know, there is a lot of health priorities that have a direct impact on Care South Carolina and the patients. We have so many patients that without the Affordable Care Act, they would be in dire straits. We have so many patients. Many of us that are staff enjoy being able to have a 340B pharmacy that is available to us, and with the savings that we enjoy from that 340B pharmacy, we can do things that we absolutely would not have had revenue to be able to accomplish. Social services, outreach, just to name a few. And then on top of that, the appropriations that come, the federal appropriations that come, that allow us through our grants to serve those according to their abilities to pay. So much depends on this. If we did not have so many of these resources, Care South Carolina and our patients and our communities would look entirely different. So when I say, and when the text message says, vote as if your health depends on it, I really mean that. Vote as if Care South Carolina depends on it. Please. Okay, y'all, weekend's here. You know the usual. Stay safe, stay well, stay strong, and let's see you all on Monday. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.